What's up, folks? Welcome to a beautiful day in the canyon, and this week Zach and I are driving the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-1. It's sort of the replacement for the Shelby 350, but also the replacement for the Bullet and the PP2. It's three Mustangs in one. I've also got the Mustang Mach-E. This is my personal vehicle that my wife and I leased for 36 months to use as an urban runabout. Obviously, they are both called Mustang Mach something. We know where this name comes from. It goes all the way back to the 1960s. There's heritage there. What about that? Has it earned that name? Do these two cars share anything at all in common besides the first portions of their names? Let's find out.
All right, so to answer the question, we should probably start with the baseline and establish what a Mustang is, and this is a pretty good example of one. This is the new 2021 Mustang Mach-1. The Mustang for generations has been front-engine sports car, easily modifiable, kind of a cheap but really good performance car overall. Provided good power, comfort, and style for, generations and generations.
Right, it's been the gold standard of entry-level quality performance cars. The V8 has always been a little more power than the chassis handled from the factory, but there's always been lots of ways to adapt that and make the Mustang your own.
Yes.
But front engine, rear drive, good sounding V8 has pretty much been the standard, right?
Yeah, it's almost like Ford's Corvette. The Corvette comes with a giant catalog of modifications. The Mustang comes with, all the aftermarket support you could want.
Right. Hey folks, today's episode is brought to you by something totally out of the box, the Mova Globe. Look at this thing. It's swirling. It's crazy. Let me tell you how this happened. Mova Globe contacted us and said we'd like to sponsor an episode. I looked at their website and I thought, man, those are cool looking globes. I'd like to have one in the office. So I said, okay. It showed up. We started looking at it, and then I walked away and came back, and it was moving on its own. It's an outer acrylic layer with a globe inside it. It's powered by light, not just sunlight, any light in your house. It is super trippy. It is super crazy. It comes in three different sizes: 4.5 inch, 6 inch, and 8.5 inch. This is the middle size one, and you can get ones that look just like Earth. You can get ones that look like other planets in the solar system. They have ones that look like traditional school globes, vintage globes, as well as just weird swirly orbs. Now that I know what this thing is, I literally want like a whole solar system around the studio. It looks great on a shelf, and we have a special deal for you. Hit the link in the description and get yourself one or more Mova Globes. We got a special TST price for you, and I can't wait to collect more of these things because frankly, they rule and everyone asks me about it. Thanks to Mova Globe for sponsoring today's video, and now enjoy. Also, the Mustang has really always been about value. You've been able to get into a V8 Mustang for a very long time under $30,000. Now I believe it's under $35,000 to get into a GT, which gives you an extraordinary amount of value for money.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting, the Coyote V8, great engine, can take a lot of power, pretty dang reliable. This one has 480 horsepower, 460 torque, and the good transmission and all the bits. This is an expensive Mustang, but it's cool that they make them in lots of different flavors. So one thing this has, we should talk about, is modes, right? Because the Mach-E has some modes we'll talk about in a minute.
There are modes.
So this has normal, sport,
track,
and then like snow wet.
And drag. It has drag strip, normal, sport, track, and my mode, which is an individual mode. It's pretty standard stuff, right? It's got normal names that accurately describe what the modes are doing for the car.
Yeah, they change the throttle response, or they make it noisier or quieter, and they change the shock damping because this has mag ride.
I feel like Mustangs have also been about giving you lots of information. They always have lots of gauges. Even going back to the Fox body, that little cluster had a bunch of little gauges on it. Now, you've got all these digital gauge options with a fully configurable cluster, plus these two dash gauges, your oil pressure and your vacuum. Oil pressure, I understand why you've had that. Vacuum is a gauge that, in my opinion, only exists because someone went, what is a thing that will move a lot? like BMW's instant fuel economy gauge.
Yes.
You know, if we were in a Shelby, this would be boost.
Right.
Because it boost moves
Which
a lot.
is a cool gauge.
Right. Wait, watch people know this. What you want is, you don't want a gauge that shows you something very important but moves very little.
You don't want a gauge that says doors.
Right.
And
I
stays
give
at 2.
me a gauge that shows me something completely useless but makes a crazy motion, so I think like all kinds of things are going on.
Yeah, very true.
I don't know if it's because this car is in the tail end of a 6-year-old model and the Mach-E is brand new, but this car has a lot of buttons, physical buttons, and in many cases they're redundant to the touchscreen, which it also has. Mach-E does not give you that choice.
True. All right. Well, I think we've kind of established what a Mustang is, so we will go jump in the Mach-E, which you will drive, and let's talk about if it is a Mustang.
Mustang should be fast, right?
A Mustang should be fast. It should at least be quick, because they've always come, for a long time they came with lots of different engine options.
Yeah.
You know, 427 to slant 6 or 260 cubic inch.
Is it our problem that we expect a Mustang to have a V8 in it when I wouldn't be surprised if less than half of the Mustangs sold actually have V8s in them?
I don't think it's our problem. I think the marketing companies, even all the way back to the 60s, are going to put the coolest thing in front of your eyes.
Right.
They're going to show you the big engine with, you know, whatever package it is. Like the Mach-1, even back then, the shaker hood was an option, but they showed it in every car, in every brochure, because it looked the coolest.
Optional material show.
Yeah,
Optional
exactly.
show, yeah.
I think that's true. You know, Chargers. What did they show in the commercials?
Right, it's all Hellcats.
Yeah.
The Mach-E. And I won't say Mustang Mach-E. I've trained myself not to. Because in my opinion, Zach, and I'm coming from this position, I spent money on this thing every month, and I refuse to call it a Mustang. And I think the worst part of this vehicle is the fact that it has horses on it.
Yeah, because they look really kitschy and silly. And,
they do.
I mean, like, there's no way to not jump to it. Right in front of us, we have the drive modes.
Yes.
And the drive modes say engage, whisper, and unbridled. Whereas the other Mustang, it was normal, sport, track, whatever.
Right. So
what is this?
What it is, in my opinion, is the utter manufacturing of the connection between this and a Mustang, right? This is an egg-like crossover, very aerodynamic, clearly designed mostly by computer.
Good looking car. I like
It's
the way
not a
it
bad
looks.
looking
I like
car.
the way it looks.
Not a bad looking car. But they then took visual elements from the Mustang and stuck them on, like the headlights, the nose, the tail lights, and the horses.
Right.
They made it a Mustang. They didn't come at it, it seems, as a ground-up Mustang. Let's do the Mustang of EVs, right? That's not what this is. This is they built an EV. It's very nice, and then they put the popular name and branding on it to make it sound like that. Like unbridled as a drive mode means absolutely nothing.
Does that mean it's out of control? Does that mean that the car is out in a field by itself with no whatever it's called on it, saddle? Like I don't know. Is that the fast one? Or
It is the fast one.
Okay.
But engage is listed first, which is normal. Whisper is actually like range or comfort, and that's listed second, and then unbridled is after that.
Whisper I got, but engage to me sounds like sport.
Yes.
Which it's not. It's
exactly.
normal.
It's confusing.
It is confusing.
And they could just call it normal sport and sport plus.
Right. It would have been fine.
Okay.
So
now-
maybe they did that because they because it's so detached from a Mustang, they're like, well, what can we go with?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They built this thing, and then it wasn't a Mustang, and then they go, okay, what can we do to fraudamars some Mustang into this? How about those iconic taillights? How about we put some horses on it?
What if you hit a button and hay comes out? No, Jerry, too far.
Yeah, you know when you hit unbridled, it goes. it doesn't, but it fucking should.
When you hit the gas.
If Tesla was doing a horse thing, when you hit the button, it would definitely
It would make galloping sounds when you hit the throttle.
Right. Now, that's my cynicism. Now, let's go through your list.
Okay.
Front engine V8, obviously not.
Obviously not.
We have a cooler for Bud Lights in the front.
Right. But let's talk about that kind of blank canvas of performance the Mustang has always been.
Yeah,
I would say this does not have that.
It doesn't, but they get as good as they can get from the factory. They're offering 4 different performance options of the thing, all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. And in fact, this being the rear-wheel drive one, I have drifted it. You can turn traction control off, and it will slide.
Yeah, the dynamics feel good, but It's not. I don't think anyone's going to buy this and go, all right, what can I do to the engine, motor, and the suspension? Like very few people are going to be modifying these in any way.
Like here's actually, I think, my comparison that works. If I drive a 911 and I then get in a Macan, I know they both feel like Porsches, but not because they have the same steering wheel and the same dashboard layout. It's an ethos, right, that runs through the whole thing.
Right.
We're driving this car back to back with a Mustang. If you get the horses out of here, these cars have nothing in common. They're rear-wheel drive. That's it. Beyond that, there's nothing in common.
Yeah, you driving this, I could go, oh, it's a good GT car, it's a great long-distance cruiser, but you could say that about basically any comfortable car. It doesn't do it in a way that the Mustang does it.
Right.
Whereas, like you said, the Macan and the the Macan and the 911, when you turn them and accelerate it, like all the things you feel and touch feel very similar. And this interior, with the exception of the little round shift knob, has nothing to do in common with the Mustang interior.
Right.
This is a great interior.
And then they put a horse on. This is such a nice EV. I mean,
It is.
I knew about the horses when I got into it, and I bought it despite the horses. And what I've found is that non-enthusiasts come up to me and go, "Is that the new Mustang?" And I reluctantly will say yes and no. Yes, but they still make the other one. And then I explain why I don't like to call it Mustang, and they get disappointed. And the enthusiasts agree with me. The enthusiasts kind of cringe at it until they drive it or ride in it, and then they go, "Oh, I see. This is very nice."
I mean, I wonder if this is just Ford, exposing the new audience or the younger audience to what the Mustang will be, in 20, 30 years. Like the only thing it will be. Will the Mustang as we know it be gone? The front engine, et cetera, and then everyone will just go.
They have to wean people off of it.
Right. This is when the crossover happened. No pun intended.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good pun, even if it was intended.
No.
But as far as is there a connection between these two cars as they exist that is more than literal skin deep? My conclusion is no.
I don't think there is.
The connection is absolutely marketing cynicism. Someone or a group of people determined that the value of the brand Mustang is more exciting and interesting than the value of the brand Ford. And even if people like me and you are going to spend time explaining why this isn't a Mustang, we're still on the other end of that conversation saying what a nice car it is.
Yeah, because some people have thrown out the whole secretary's car of the 64.5 Mustang, which was, a slant 6, weak but cool looking coupe meant to grab the youth market, which this doesn't do because these are expensive. Like this is a cool EV and a good looking car, which the early Mustang also was, but it's so expensive and challenging to own if you don't own your own home and have access to charging stations and whatnot, that it's not really going to grab those 20-something-year-olds that just wanted to look cool and cruise around the way the first one did.
Yeah, the youth don't have the disposable income they had in 1964.
True.
And I feel like those who do are buying things that are maybe a little more exciting.
Yeah.
I like it so much as a car. I really do. It's just not a good Mustang. It's not.
Yeah, the marketing worked. It got everybody talking about it, but
and they extracted money from my wife and I.
The fact that this one exists and they have the same name and they're obviously completely different cars, it just makes the tethering really weird.
Yeah. Strangely, the Mach-1 brand is memorable, but not that strong. You know what I mean? In my opinion, they should have offered a badging option that was a take on the Mach-1 badge, but just a Mach-E badge instead of a horse. Instead of horses.
Oh, that would have been cool.
But I don't think it would have carried. I can tell on the street when people see the horse. I can tell.
Of course.
Because without the horse, they would just look past the egg-shaped crossover. They see the horse and they go, Mustang.
Right.
So it works.
It works for the business case. I get why Ford did it completely. They will sell far more of them than they would have otherwise.
But you're never, ever, as long as I own this thing, going to get me calling it a Mustang. You're just not. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
And remember, always fight your tickets. Use code TST10 on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.